and the masters of the universe. I am Adam, Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of Grayskull!" Cringer became the mighty Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Only 3 others share this secret. Our friends, the Sorceress, Man-at-Arms, and Orko. Together, we defend Castle Grayskull from the evil forces of Skeletor.
Hello, this is OptimusSolo, and welcome to the 34th chapter in Tales of Eternia. With me for this journey into the Masters of the Universe franchise, as always, is TFG1Mike. Hello. And we're off to a good start, guys. Mike, are you ready for more Powers of the Grayskull?
Honestly, probably, yeah, because this episode we actually have some good cartoons to talk about.
Uh-oh, Mike's positive, guys. Hold on to your hats. Buckle up. It might be an interesting ride here. In this episode of Tales of Eternia, we will be giving you our thoughts on episode 99, The Time Wheel, episode 100, Search for the Past, and episode 101, Hunt for He-Man. So we hope you're ready, because it's time to go back to Eternia.
When Man-at-Arms sent us out on a geology field trip, I didn't expect this kind of excitement.
Neither did I. I think the sandstorm's getting worse. We'll have to stop and wait it out.
Well, how about over there?
Good idea. Those boulders will give us shelter from the storm.
Look, this isn't much shelter. We better find a cave or something to hide in.
Maybe He-Man can help us make our own cave. By the power of Grayskull!
I've never seen a cave like that before.
It's not a cave, Orko. Somebody built that tunnel, and from the looks of it, they did it a long time ago.
Well, they won't mind if we go inside to get out of the storm.
Oh, I'm sure they won't.
We start today with episode 99, The Time Wheel. Written by Mel Gilden and Larry DiTillio. Air date Friday, October 26th, 1984. The plot goes something like this. Orko and He-Man discover a time machine and inadvertently summon forth an ancient king who is extremely displeased to learn that King Randor now sits on his throne. We don't have any of the evil warriors, but we do have the main masters, including the Queen and the King. And the PSA was given to us by He-Man, talking about how wonderful it would be to be able to turn back time. But since we can't, pick up a book, kids, and read.
Well, it's... Alright, let's get the PSA out of the way. It's a heavy-handed way to give a book, reading is good message. But he does make a good point. You do escape to other planets and areas and jungles and time periods when you do read, depending on what you're reading. As long as it's nonfiction. As long as it's fiction. Yeah.
Yeah, some people do that, though. Some people escape to all kinds of different worlds when they read because they fall asleep and start dreaming.
Well, there is that. But,
I'm just kidding.
Dreaming is we need to come up against a dream episode before we can talk about the whole dreaming thing, because...
But as far as the actual episode goes, and summoning the king from the past, and getting a little bit of the back story, I guess, of Eternia in a way, what did you think of that plot?
I liked it. I think it was interesting. Wish it was executed a little bit better than what it was. The writing was good. It's just he automatically assumes that they're enemies because they're in his enemy's temple or whatever that it was a really, really long roundabout way to get him to understand that this is not his time.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be hard to convince anybody that they're in a different time, just in general. I do like this episode because it's one of the first times that we've dealt with a someone else who is king besides Randor.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of gives us a direct conflict between Randor and somebody else, so that's kind of a unique thing that we don't get a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that part of it. I like kind of the background of looking at Eternia's past a little bit and kind of just that struggle of, well, we have two people that legitimately, I guess, are both kings. Neither one has lost their throne, just one's in the wrong time period. So how are they going to interact and how are they going to end up coming to terms with whatever's going on? So
Right.
I kind of like the dilemmas that it puts up there. And it's, to me, one of the more unique episodes we've got as far as, so many episodes you could put in groups. Like, these are all the episodes about little uncle or little nephew, cousin, annoying kid. And these are all the episodes about the Trollins. And these are all the episodes about some magical mystery jewel thing that's going to give us power. I don't know how many episodes you can group with this one. Unless you put all the origin ones together.
Yeah, you could do that.
But this really isn't an origin story. It's just more of a history.
Well, yeah, it is more of a history. The origin one will come up later. You could lump that in with the origins.
Yeah.
Because they bring up certain relatives later. But this one, I'm trying to think.
There's not a whole lot that would fit in.
You could... Oh, okay. In a roundabout way, you can lump it in with the origins, because this is the origin, one of the origins of Eternia itself.
Yeah.
So I'm reaching there, I know, but
it just kind of shows how unique this episode is compared to a lot of the episodes we've been getting.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else about the plot, sir?
Uh-uh.
Were you upset that you didn't see the evil warriors?
No, because again, you're reaching into Eternia's past. You're giving us backstory. You're not just reaching out and grabbing any villain, that you can think of or that you want to make up. No, so yeah, no, it doesn't bother me. I was kind of wondering as I was watching through the plot, I was kind of wondering if he would eventually have found Snake Mountain, but He-Man kind of explained that away because he said, "Oh, well, he'll just go back to his, his enemy's temple." Because he was from a different time, and 1,000 years ago on Eternia, I don't think Skeletor was around.
Well, I never know. We haven't got the whole origin of Skeletor yet. All right, so let's make our first journey to Castle Grayskull today.
Is that what they look like?
Orko, I think we've stumbled onto an ancient Silcon laboratory.
Silcons? I've heard Man-at-Arms talk about them. Gosh, I wonder if any of them are here.
Not likely, Orko. The Silcon civilization vanished thousands of years ago. Orko! Uh-oh, boomerangs. It looks like somebody didn't want any visitors. I hope there aren't any more of those booby traps around.
There's gotta be a way out of here. Even the Silcons wouldn't build a room without doors. I hope. Well, maybe that's what I'm looking for. Let's see if this opens a door.
All right, we are at Castle Grayskull, and we will begin talking about the good things about the Time Wheel and the appearance of King Tamask. My highlights, real quick, Castle Grayskull moments. Orko's magic worked.
For once.
It's always good when Orko's magical works.
Yeah.
And I really like the history angle that they went with on here. Obviously, people probably that listen to the podcast or listen to any podcast that I've been on as far as these review shows knows that I like backstory, I like history. So anytime there's an angle like that, I'm going to be somewhat intrigued. I thought it was an interesting creature that they created right there, the Sandipede. I mean, that's a clever name. Sandipede.
It sounds like something George Lucas would come up with.
It sounds like something I would never want to come across.
Come on, let's face it. The only creature that we would ever want to come across that isn't like someone like Battlecat or Panther out of this entire series is probably Granomir. He'd probably scare the crap out of us, but at least we know, as long as we respect the thing, you
Right.
know.
Centipede sounds like something that has a lot of legs, though, and that creeps me out.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice, and I put this as a Castle Grayskull moment because I think it's somewhat humorous and funny, but have you ever noticed how apparently in Eternia, King Randor and Queen Marlena literally just sit on their throne all day?
Yeah. Well, I brought it up earlier.
They
do
just
they
chilling on their thrones.
do they even sleep together? Like, I'm not trying to be dirty here, people. I'm not trying to be sexual. I'm asking you, do they actually sleep together in the same bed? Actually go to sleep next to each other? Because we saw at one point in a previous episode where Marlena apparently has her own room with two beds in her own room. You know, it reminds me of my Aunt Rose's parents. When my Aunt Rose was still alive, her parents. They're obviously an older couple and everything else. And as you age, you tend not to sleep with each other anymore because of health reasons and stuff like that. But it's just like, seriously, does Randor and Marlena do anything other than sit on the toilet all day long?
Well, and the other thing is, like, we've never seen him like meet with advisors. He's not looking at any maps. He's not doing any strategy.
Well,
like
they did once. It was the one of the. I'm sorry to interrupt you. The one of the submarine episodes when stuff was happening on the Eternian Ocean. That was one time I remember them, being in like a battle room.
Right.
But it was only him, Adam, and Man at Arms.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about, like, from a day-to-day aspect. We get no feeling that, obviously when there's a specific need, he's going to be doing that when it's crucial to the episode. But just in the background, when it's episodes that even don't concern him, it'd be good to see him just having a one-on-one talk with somebody. Just whatever, doing some type of king-like thing.
It'd be nice to see him spend time with his queen, honestly, because there was one episode that we talked about a while back where she's gonna go off and do something, and he's like, "Okay, my dear, I'll see you later." And it's like, you moron, go with her.
Yeah, but I find it.
I know we're not at Snake Mountain, but
I find it would be very boring to just sit on my throne all day.
Yeah.
But I did think that he had a good look at the end with all his different outfits.
We'll talk about that later.
I like that part. Seeing Randor and stuff that wasn't his normal outfit was very humorous to me. What did you like about this episode?
The Last Sorcerer King of Eternia. Interesting. So you have two very different eras on Eternia. You have the era of the Sorcerer Kings, people like what the hell's his name? The dude, Mollusk, Monks, whatever the hell. You have people like him. You have people like King Grayskull, who was also a Sorcerer King. And now you have the kings of today, and Miro, and which we'll talk about later, and his son Randor, and then obviously, eventually, King He-Man and everything else, and which is interesting to see the lineage of how Eternia's royalty has changed over the thousands and thousands of years. I love we were talking about the sand thing, the sandipede. When He-Man is doing his whole Superman thing of digging down to find the water, I love when he comes up after he's gotten the water. He's in the water. He's flying up because the water is basically shooting him out. He does a barrel roll. He does like a somersaulting barrel roll where he curls up his entire body, looks like a ball, and he's just roll. I just absolutely love that. And you mentioned it already, but the many variants of King Randor. So we have the one where he looks like Mollusk, or whatever the hell the guy's name is. We have one where he looks like a jester. And then probably the best one, we have R. King R.
Right.
Because he's dressed up in Orko garb. That purple scarf looks like it's just holding a decapitated head on top of it. It doesn't look like he has a neck at all. But yeah, that was absolutely hilarious.
Did you just burp?
Yes, probably. I don't know. And I actually screen capped all three of these to put in the post, and
Excellent.
I put them on Facebook, and I started with the one where he looks like the Sorcerer King. And in the background you have Marlena next to Adam, and then Orko's facing them. So Orko is facing away from us. Marlena's got her hand up to her mouth as she's looking at him as the Sorcerer King outfit. When we get to when I scroll over to the Jester one, she's now laughing with her hand on Adam's shoulder, and Adam's busting a gut. So it was a fun little thing that they did with this episode. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else that you really liked about this episode?
No, not really.
All right. Then we will see if there's anything negative to say about the Time Wheel when we get to Snake Mountain.
Randor isn't your enemy. Believe me.
Orko!
Who's that?
It's He-Man. Well, I'm glad to see you. There's a fellow in that room named Tamask who thinks he's king of Eternia.
Tamask? Why, Tamask was the last of Eternia's Sorcerer Kings, but that was thousands of years ago.
Stay back, traitors!
Orko tells me that you're calling yourself Tamask, King of Eternia. Who are you, really?
I am Tamask, the real king of Eternia. This Randor is the pretender. I will meet him in battle to prove it. Randor will be no match for me.
All right, it's time for Snake Mountain moments for Time Wheel. Go ahead, sir.
The Dragon Walker again. Damn it. That vehicle should never be used, ever. The only other thing I have is, I feel as if we've seen this one before. Not this specific plot, but the plot device that's used. The Time Wheel. Didn't Skeletor use that to send He-Man back in time way back in Season 1? I swear to God, Skeletor has had a hold of that at one point or another.
There was some form of time corridor, time portal type device that was used, yeah. I don't know if it was the exact same or not. As for me with the Snake Mountain moments, most of them are going to be little nitpicky type things, but first of all, they use the word bitterest. Bitterest? I'm pretty sure it's not a word. Most bitter or something like that. I don't know. He-Man read that Time Wheel very fast. So
Yeah,
I mean,
he did.
I would expect there to be some type of delay as he's trying to encode it or trying to translate it and struggling through, but he's just like, oh, this is what it says. And then that one point when he says, quote, oh, I'll just leave the water flowing for thirsty travelers. That was an instance where they didn't really want to have to explain or take the time to show him stopping that or putting it back. So they're just like, oh, fuck it. We'll just have He-Man say that we'll leave the water. Why would we leave the water? For thirsty travelers? I don't know. That was a weak part of the writing there. Statues don't wear down that quickly, I don't think.
Well, didn't he say they're made of mud or something or other?
I don't know. I thought I must have missed that part. It just seemed like that was wearing down at a very accelerated pace. And there was a weird Evil Lyn laugh at the end when they're laughing at Randor.
Yeah, that's...
There was an Evil Lyn laugh kind of mixed in there, which was like, what? I don't think she's there. It's like I said, mostly minor things, except for the I'll just leave the water flowing for thirsty travelers was a little tiny thing that bugged me a little bit.
Right.
All right. Well, we'll see just how we stack up this episode against all the other ones. We'll see how we start today. Hopefully, it's a positive note, but we'll wait and see when we get to the awards and rankings.
I hope this rope is long enough.
Do you feel safer now that I am tied up, friend of Silkans?
What are you gonna do, He-Man?
The old spinning top trick.
All right, it's awards and rankings time. I just have one piece of hardware to hand out for the Time Wheel. And nothing spectacular, but I would like to give a power sword to the hero himself, He-Man, in this episode. I just thought he made a lot of good decisions. He was level-headed. He, did what he needed to do. So I liked He-Man in this episode. So power sword to him. How about you?
I liked He-Man. I liked how his advice eventually changed how the Sorcerer... That's what I'm going to fucking call him. I don't remember his fucking name. The Sorcerer King.
King Thomas?
Whatever. I like how his advice eventually changed. Like, what I'm wondering, though, is... And I can almost give out a Havoc staff about this, and maybe we should have talked about this in the plot, but what I'm also wondering now is, now that I'm thinking about this... What was the Sorcerer King like before he got that advice for He-Man? Because we know he was always fighting no matter what. So how is Eternia's history still the same if he was always a fighting king? That's a big... I should have brought that up in Snake Mountain moments, but that's a little weird. I'll give a power sword to He-Man because he stuck to his guns and he kept trying to teach the Sorcerer King, hey, fighting isn't always the way. So...
Right.
That's pretty good. As far as a rating for me, overall, I really enjoyed this one. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 Orcos.
4 out of 5. Living it up. I actually liked it even a little bit more than you. I really liked the history angle. Liked the two kings going at each other for the throne. A couple nitpicks here and there. So it wasn't a perfect episode, but I will give it a 4.5 out of 5. 4.5 Battle Cats for me, 4 Orcos for you. That's a good way to... And let's see where we go from here.
Orko, don't take one from the bottom.
See? Nothing to worry about. With my magic touch, I knew just which one to take. What happened?
Your magic touch worked about as well as the rest of your magic. And now we're going to have to pay for all this fruit.
That fruit dealer was a little angry, wasn't he?
Do you blame him?
Treasures from faraway lands. Treasures never before seen.
Why, it can't be.
A magnificent choice, good sir.
Where did you get this? I must know.
That piece. Let's see now. Was it in the mountains of Jasmine? No, the Crystal Sea. No, that's not it.
Well, you must remember, it's very important.
I think, yes, the Swamps of Enchantment. That's where I found it.
The Swamps of Enchantment?
My father's crest. Can it be?
Yes, sire. Shall I organize a search party?
No. If my father is still alive, it's up to me to find him. Prepare my Wind Raider.
Forgive me, sire. I know how you feel about this, but I can't let you go alone. If you won't take a whole party, at least let me accompany you.
Very well, Duncan. We'll do this together, and may the ancients grant us success.
This fruit is great, Orko. But don't you think you bought a little more than you need?
Well, I wasn't exactly planning on this much.
Orko, is Adam... There you are.
Oh, come in, Mother. Have a piece of fruit.
Please.
No, thank you, Adam. I'm worried about your father.
I thought he and Man-at-Arms were on a friendship mission to Gamelon.
That's what I thought. But then I found this.
Hey, this crest looks awfully familiar.
It should be. It's King Miro's.
King Miro's?
Who's King Miro?
King Randor's father.
And my grandfather. Hey, he vanished many years ago, before you even came to Eternia, Orko.
The story was that he had been lost in a battle with his evil enemy, the Enchantress, but Randor never believed it. He always felt that Miro was still alive, somewhere.
Second up today is episode 100, Milestone, Search for the Past.
At least it was better than what episode 50 was.
Written by Misty Stewart and Larry DiTillio, air date Monday, October 29th, 1984. King Randor picks up the trail of his long-lost father, King Miro, but Miro's old enemy, the Enchantress, nearly makes them both her prisoners. The main masters, again with a feature on Queen and the King specifically, none of the evil warriors. The PSA was given to us from Orko. And it's basically just talking about grandparents and love and family. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like three different things. I mean, it was a very
You weren't into this one, were
no.
you?
I mean, the PSA was just kind of complicated in trying to do too much because they talked about the evil enchantress. Can't do bad things without being punished for them. They talk about King Randor finding his father. And then they talk about grandparents and the love between a grandfather, a grandmother, and their grandchild, if you're lucky to have them. So I don't know, that was just kind of weird. Because it wasn't a real great message to anybody that doesn't have grandparents still living at that point. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't dislike the episode. I just thought the PSA was a little weird. And then as far as the Orko's fun facts, it was previously hinted in The Rainbow Warrior that Queen Marlena knows Adam is He-Man. It is hinted again in this episode when worried about Man-at-Arms and her husband, she asks Adam to go after them. And obviously, we will get another King Miro appearance when we get to our next podcast covering She-Ra.
Oh, okay.
So King Miro shows up in both series.
Right, but he doesn't show up today until the next episode, right?
No, he's in this episode. Did you not listen to the plot?
Oh, that's right. No,
King Randor picks up the trail of his long-lost father, King Miro.
Yeah.
All right, we're on Search for the Past, episode 100. Mike's with us now, so what do you think of the plot of King Randor searching for his long-lost father and the Enchantress?
I was half waiting for Thor to show up, honestly, because the only character I know as the Enchantress has stuff to do with Asgard and Loki and Thor and all that stuff. But I like this one. I think it's really cool. Again, it's an episode where we can lump into the Origins episode since it is, Randor's father and all that.
This one probably has the most connection to the last episode as any other episode would get.
Right. I kind of question the plot in this one because if he's been missing for all these years, I wish they would have specified how many years he had been gone, because Miro is an old man at this point. So has he been gone for 10, 20, 30 years? Had he ever seen how does he even recognize his son? Okay, I mean, outside of the usual answer of, parents recognize their children, but, how the hell does he know his son is now king? Okay, sure, Randor kind of looks like Miro, except he's not half bald yet, which is kind of silly. You think about it, Miro kind of looks like a really, really old version of George Costanza, and that's what Randor's going to end up looking like, which means in, 3,000 years in the future, we're going to have a bald King He-Man.
I think part of that's explained away, actually, because Miro and He-Man, or Prince Adam, recognize each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that, to me, would state that King Miro has not been gone more than 10 years, or 15 years at the very most. If he'd recognized Prince Adam, and Adam's supposedly, somewhere between 15 and 20 years old, I'm guessing, in this.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've talked about that before, and I can't remember what we came up with. But he's a teenager, basically, is the gist of that. So if he recognizes him, he couldn't have been gone more than 15 years, because that's how old Adam is. So
I just wish that they wouldn't have gone with the standard line of, "My father has been gone for so long, blah, blah, blah." I wish they would have given us an actual, how many years.
I would say 5-10 years.
Yeah.
But so that kind of explains why he would recognize Randor. Randor wouldn't have changed that much in 10 years. Adam's a little bit more of a stretch that he recognizes him, because he was probably a little kid when he saw him last time. But yeah, I mean, I didn't have that same issue with it. And honestly, this is an episode that I remember somewhat. I don't know if I watched it, if I'm remembering it from when I was a kid, or if somehow this is one of the random episodes that I watched right when I got my DVD sets, or what the situation was. But I do remember the Enchantress, and I remember King Miro. And actually, behind the voice actors on the He-Man page, because as we've been going through each episode, I've been adding all the characters, and just trying to make that show page as complete as possible. Right. And so I've been adding them episode by episode. So basically, if you go to the page, they're in chronological order of episodes. But when I went to do this one, the Enchantress and King Miro, I already had on the page. They were one of the first
So you must
characters
have
that
already watched
yeah.
this at one
So
point or
I don't know if
another.
it was when I made the page originally, but I had these guys already on the page a long time ago. So I did somewhat have a recent memory of this one. And just so you know, as of right now, He-Man and the Masters Universe page has 315 characters. 315 characters that we've had
And
so
we're not
far.
even through 130 episodes yet. So
Right.
by episode 130, we got 30 episodes to go with how God knows how
Probably
many
at
new
least
characters
50 or 60
showing.
characters. We should be somewhere in the 400 character range by the time this show's over.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of having this episode. I kind of like that they have this one back to back with the Time Wheel, and then we kind of get a double dose of King Randor and some of the history of Eternia. It kind of covers his character as much as I need to be covered. We've gotten a little bit of Marlena, and now we've gotten 2 episodes of little bits, kind of side effect backstories for King Randor. So I'm good with those characters. We've gotten a little bit of Tila, we've gotten Cringer and Battle Cat. We've had the Tron episodes for Orko. Really, the only thing we haven't had a lot of is the backstory for He-Man.
We've had it every week for 100 episodes.
Yeah, but I mean, we haven't.
When I lift my magic sword and said,
right, but I mean, outside of like the little bit that we got when when we were seeing the history of Cringer, we haven't seen a lot from He-Man's youth.
Well,
which we will get eventually.
What are you talking about the sword thing?
Yeah.
That's not necessarily... Well, that's his youth, but that's like when he was a little kid. It's basically he's cosplaying as Luke Skywalker. But anyway.
This covers most of the main good characters that we have.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if we've really ever gotten too much of a backstory on some of the more recurring, like Ram Man.
We have not gotten an origin for Ram Man. We got an origin for Many Faces. We got an origin for Fisto.
A tiny bit for Stratos.
Tiny, well, yeah, I mean...
So, I mean, it's good that they're covering here and there. I mean, I guess if you add them all up, we would get an origin for a lot of the characters. What they haven't done is done anything for the Evil Warriors.
Well, they have done some stuff for Merman, like certain aspects of his rule over the Eternian Sea or whatever else.
Like there was an episode that covers like how Skeletor came to meet Skeletor and how he came about developing a relationship with Evelyn and how they all came into his fold type of thing.
We know that in accordance with how we're doing these podcasts and when these cartoons came out, we know that it's going to be about somewhere around, let's see here, 18 years before we find out a real origin of Skeletor.
Right, I'm just surprised that they didn't do something like how Skeletor met all the Evil Warriors. That to me would have been an obvious choice for one of the writers back then to do.
Absolutely.
But anyways, that's getting off track completely. I like the fact that this episode's here. I like that it's back to back with the Time Wheel. Like I said, PSA is kind of wonky, but other than that, I kind of like the Enchantress, and I like this whole King Randor, King Miro thing. So no problems here with the plot from me. I also think it'll be interesting that we'll see King Miro again in She-Ra, so I'll be looking forward to that and seeing how that plays out. So for the second time today, let's make our way to Castle Grayskull and see what else we really like about the search for the past.
Whirling pool that now will be. Bring the king to stand with me.
What's that?
Why, it sounds like a...
Duncan!
Your Majesty!
Duncan, help me!
Randor!
Duncan!
All right, we're at Castle Grayskull. I'll start because most of it I've already kind of said. As I was watching this episode, first thing I wrote down was Randor's father, ? Because I was intrigued that we were going there. And then obviously King Miro. I like the Enchantress, like I said. Cool insight into the family history there. And I like that they put the good old tar bath angle, like the good old days from the beginning of season 1, where He-Man throws somebody into the tar bath. So I liked that made a reappearance. What about you?
I like pretty much everything about this one. Obviously, the continuity with the story of Rendo's father, Miro. I love the adventure that He-Man and Miro kind of go on to save Randor. I found it hilarious that the Enchantress has a separate prison from where her base is. I don't know why that made me laugh, but Miro is like up in this tower that is completely away from Castle Fear, which I'm sorry, that's the worst name for a castle ever. Castle Plundar would be better, but anyway, that's a whole other series. I like the animation in this; it's very well done. I like that we have backstory for Randor and his side of the, we've already gotten a full-on backstory. Marlena came from Earth, and Randor made her his queen, and etc etc etc. So I'm liking seeing stuff out of Randor's past. So I like that. The Enchantress, she was all right in the end. She turned out to be harmless. I mean, really, not the best villain that had nothing to do with Skeletor, but not the worst either.
Yeah.
So that's it.
All right, well, let's make our way to Snake Mountain then.
Remember me. Oh, how flattering.
I could never forget you, witch. What have you done with my father?
You'll see your beloved father soon enough, noble fool. But for now, I think you should dry off in my dungeons. Take him!
Let me go! Let me go!
See anything down there, Cringer?
It looks like a plate of spinach.
I'll turn on the tracer. If Man-at-Arms is down there, we can home in on it. Cringer, we found them. We've got to get down there quick. I'll set the Wind Raider to land itself, and we'll eject right here.
Eject? Can't we just land with the Raider?
In that spinach?
No, wait a minute!
Quite a ride, huh?
Just tell me when it's over.
All right, we're at Snake Mountain, since we haven't been there yet today, as far as actually seeing Skeletor in an episode. So got to make our frequent trips to kind of see if he's still walking around the halls, checking up on those evil warriors.
We're using it as a vacation home.
Yeah. Castle Fear, I didn't necessarily dig that, or the fact that they said it can't be seen from the ground. Mm-hmm. That's weird, and I don't know if that's possible. The Lurker was stupid looking and acting at first. He grew on me a little bit, but I know right at the beginning I was like, that character looks silly. Mm-hmm. I do have, even though I really enjoyed King Miro being in this episode and all the family history and whatnot, I think there was a couple nitpicks on his character. Number one, he sounded too young. Mm-hmm. I think he should have sounded older. And because he sounded too young, he sounded too much like Randor. I think there should have been a little bit more of a separation and a little bit more of an aged sound to him in comparison with Randor. And I thought we could have gotten a little bit more about Miro's character, a little bit more character depth and development as far as his actual personality a little bit. Yep. So just nitpicks on that. I got something I liked, but I could have liked it even a tiny bit more. But that's not necessarily anything super bad about the episode. What about you?
I only have one thing, and it just consistently pisses me off throughout this entire series. He-Man throws the power sword to make the snowball fall. Yet when he breaks Miro out of the ice he got trapped in, the sword is just back in the scabbard. Didn't even go over, pick it up, anything. It's just there. Give me some sort of explanation. Show for a half of a second that He-Man walks over to where the snowball was, picks up his fucking sword, and puts it back.
I always get upset whenever he throws his sword. Just because that thing is super important. Maybe
you think? Yeah, you think?
So it always bothers me because I'm like, when you're doing that, you're taking a chance, you're not getting it back. Especially if you never walk up and pick it up.
This reminds me of the current comic line, the current comic DC is doing. In one of the issues, in one of the storylines, He-Man actively tells someone, just don't say anything about Castle Grayskull, or else you're going to get, the shock of your life, basically. He says, you can hold my sword, but don't say anything about Power or Grayskull, because you're going to get fried.
Interesting.
That was pretty much it. Overall, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a really, really good episode.
Well, let's see if you enjoyed it more or less than the last episode as we get to our ranking section.
Something doesn't feel right to me, Cringe. I think we'd better get ready for anything.
Oh, we know what that means.
By the power of Grayskull! Let's find my father and men-at-arms.
All right, we're at the awards and rankings section. I'm going to toss it over to you first because even though I enjoyed this episode, nobody really stood out one way or the other, so I'm not giving out any hardware today, but maybe you are. I'm glad that you're prepared.
Shut up, I'm thinking. I gotta give one to Miro, because, Randor just assumed that his father's back, he's going to basically kick his son off the throne and maintain his rule. And Miro didn't do that. Miro did the right thing. This is a guy that has been trapped for, let's say, for example, at least 10 years. That way that way at least, because if Adam's anywhere between 15 and 20, at least that way we would still, keep the whole thing of Adam remembers his grandfather, or he remembers Adam, whatever. So let's say Miro's been trapped in that dungeon or just tower, whatever the hell, for 10 years. That means 10 years he hasn't seen Eternia. So and I'll give him a power sword gladly for not trying to take the throne back from his son and actually going out and seeing what his kingdom has become in the time that he has been gone.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yep.
All right, as far as ratings, sir, you had 4 on the last episode. Where are you at on this one?
About the same, 4. Really enjoyed it. It's not... It doesn't have enough of... For me to rate something a 5, it has to do something with actually going to Castle Grayskull, or going to Snake Mountain, or actually seeing a fight between Skeletor and He-Man. I don't even remember the last episode we were at Grayskull. I honestly don't. I mean, it seems like forever since we've seen the castle itself.
Bird in the Hand, episode 97.
The still.
Hollywag.
Oh, yeah, that's right. What about you?
I'm going to be similar to you. I'm going to give the same rating as I did the first one. I like both of them slightly better than you, just barely. I gave this one a 4.5, just like I did the last one. Mm-hmm. So double 4.5s to start the second half of season 2. We're off to a good start for me. Double 4s for you. We're off to a good start for you. Let's see if we can have a hat trick here with Hunt for He-Man next.
It can only go downhill from here, folks.
Inventions? I always need new inventions.
Yeah, we could use a new Wind Raider.
You mean I could use a new Wind Raider? Use the freeze ray to bring it down carefully.
Watch this. The Wind Raider's out of control.
You mean we're going down? Dunderheads! I wanted the Wind Raider drawn to Snake Mountain, not crashed in the misty swamps.
All right, we are at episode 101, the last one for today, which is Hunt for He-Man, written by Anthony Zalewski, air date of Tuesday, October 30th, 1984. When He-Man and Cringer become stranded in the misty swamps, He-Man is poisoned and must rely on the help of an old man, though his son would rather turn the fallen hero over to Skeletor. The evil warriors were Skeletor, Trapjaw, and Whiplash, and we had Prince Adam, He-Man, and Cringer. Basically the only ones that appeared in this episode. The PSA was from Drac, He-Man, and Cringer, about Drac almost betraying He-Man, and just kind of the tempting aspect of riches and power and all that type of stuff. So, what did you think about the whole Drac, almost handing He-Man over to Skeletor?
We almost did it, ladies and gentlemen. We almost went 5 or so episodes in a row without any moronic kids. Oh my God, this might be the worst kid out of them all. I mean, sure, Cousin Jeremy's annoying. Sure, Cousin Ed Weiner's annoying. But this kid is more annoying than Scanlan is. Honestly. I mean, seriously. Oh, God. And this plot, hunt for He-Man? Really? Seriously? That's all Skeletor has to do is go hunting for He-Man?
Yes.
Seriously, I'm Skeletor. I should find a way to take over Eternia in a better way. I should be going to Grayskull to try to get its secrets, which is my plot of the whole episode or the whole series.
Why did you just turn...
I don't know.
Like a leprechaun.
Just... Oh, God. Can you imagine? I am Skeletor of the Wee people.
I am so disturbed right now.
A leprechaun Skeletor. Oh, God. You do know who Hornswoggle is, right?
Yes.
Next Halloween in WWE, we need Hornswoggle to dress up as Skeletor.
Yeah. Slightly disturbed.
That would be awesome.
Slightly disturbed.
What about you for the plot?
I mean, I guess it's somewhat interesting because we don't get, we're not getting any of the other masters, so to speak. So, it's kind of a He-Man only episode, and how is he going to fare, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know. I could deal without any more young kids. I really could. I'm kind of tired of the young kid angle.
We've got 29 episodes left in this show. They need to get rid of the kids completely.
Yeah, complete agreement on that one. But I mean, I don't know. It wasn't a terrible episode. I just, every time that there's a kid-centric plot, it makes me shudder a little bit. So it's kind of where I'm at with that. All right, well, I mean, I don't want to make it sound completely negative, so there is some good things to say for Hunt for He-Man, so let's get to Castle Grayskull so we can get a little more positive.
It's so comfortable in the back seat. It's as if we were flying. We are flying. Adam must have taken a nap from the controls. Then who's flying the Wind Raider? Adam, wake up!
Well, what is it, Cringer?
No one's flying the plane.
Oh, that.
Do something.
Don't worry, we're flying on Duncan's new autopilot. I just tell the computer where we want to go, and it flies itself.
Oh, of course. Why didn't I think of that?
What's that?
Are your brains getting rusty? It's a Wind Raider.
Why, I know that, you fool. But there's no one flying.
It's probably another of those new inventions those goody-goodies at the palace keep coming up with.
All right, we're at Castle Grayskull for the last time today for Hunt for He-Man. A couple things that I have here. I do somewhat like the idea that the kid likes Skeletor.
No.
Because we've had a lot of kids before, and they've all kind of been the same old song and dance. So I kind of like that we have actually a kid that likes the bad guy or likes Skeletor. Because that is common, when you're growing up. You always, sometimes you or one of your friends or whatever likes the bad guy in a cartoon or likes the bad guy in a movie or whatever. So it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. So I kind of like that angle.
Okay. I hate to interrupt you, but I have to bring this up because we haven't referenced it enough in this episode. Hardly at all. This reminds me of at some point in one of the Transformers episodes, Spike is enthralled with Megatron and his. Oh no, that's not what it was. It's War Dawn. That's what it is. David Wise's episode War Dawn, where young Optimus, Orion Pax, is just enamored with Megatron and maybe Megatron isn't such a bad guy. Maybe Megatron isn't evil. This is exactly what this reminded me of, except it's done more annoyingly here than it was there. Go ahead.
Yeah, but anyways, I like that the kid liked Skeletor. I like that they show the true value of money and power, or they allude to kind of the evilness of money and power. It was a good cliffhanger as the robot hunters are approaching the weakened He-Man, and then they went to a commercial break originally. So it was a good placement of the commercial. I liked the Collector, Skeletor's ship. I thought the design of that is pretty cool looking. And Skeletor has another line that's classic kid talk there when he goes, "Make me." So yeah, I mean, there were some good things about the episode. It wasn't your exactly carbon copy of all the other little kid episodes because he likes Skeletor. And there's some good values in it as far as money and power, so I'm not going to hate on this episode entirely. What about you?
You dunderheads, now we have to go out in the mud to get my new Wind Raider. Oh my god, Skeletor. It's just so hilarious. And poor Cringer, man. That scene with him, his poor tail stuck in the wind. And I'd like to know what the hell it was stuck on. Was it stuck between the seats? Was it tangled around something? God, poor Cringer. Just gotta love that cat. I absolutely laughed out loud when the villains are scared of He-Man, even in his weakened state. That's just funny.
Yeah.
It's creepy to me. I screen cap this, it'll be in the post, but it's not going to be animatic the way it is, obviously, in the show. It's creepy to me when Cringer sticks his head out of the cart and waves his paw where his fingers are supposed to be moving. It creeps me out. It's hilarious, but it just creeps me out. It's just a really weird drawing of Cringer, but that's about it for me.
All right, well then let's make our last journey to Snake Mountain today.
Why don't we turn He-Man over to Skeletor?
I'll have nothing to do with that evil being.
But Skeletor is a genius. His magic is powerful. We need a friend like that.
You must choose your friends carefully. Skeletor is a friend only to himself.
Well, I'm sure Skeletor's not as bad as everyone says.
There's no time to argue, Drac. We have to get He-Man away from here. Now please do as I say.
All right, Grandpa. I'll get the cart.
Snake Mountain moments for Hunt for He-Man. There was a minor flub there where Skeletor laughed, but we actually heard Trapjaw laugh. So whoops. The kid voices are so bad in this series. I apologize to Erica Scheimer and Linda Gary, but there's only so much you can do as a female to do 1,000 different little boy voices. Mm-hmm. And just grates on me because it's not. There's select few voice actors who do kids very well, and it's just so hard when we have to hear these over and over again. So my apologies, because otherwise I do like those two individual people. It seems like all the prisoners in this episode, all the prisoners are characters that have shown up before in the series. Mm-hmm. Like they were literally just using all the different characters from all the different villages that we've ever been to in the series. I swear you could probably pick them out in one by one and like label which episode they're from. And it was somewhat creepy when Skeletor and Drac are interacting, and Skeletor has a ring on, and Drac and him just keep playing patty cake and holding each other's hands. It's a little inappropriate and disturbing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was somewhat funny, but it was also disturbing.
Yeah, true.
What about you?
The kids in this show. Oh my god. It's not even the fact of the voices, but stop with the kids. Just fucking stop. It is so horrible. The only child that was not annoying this entire series to this point is the Star Child, because she was lost and, she was fed up about her, foster parents, the two tribes fighting over her. That's the only child out of this entire series that's not annoying to me, because, she was lost and alone and didn't know what to do. But the rest of these kids, get rid of them. Just get rid of them all.
How do you really feel?
Okay. You want to know how I really feel?
That was a rhetorical question.
Christ, this kid needs to be dunked in that poisonous swamp water. That's how I really feel.
All right. That's pretty positive.
No, we're at Snake Mountain. I don't have to be positive.
That's true.
The fuck? Those robots were floating. They should have fallen off the bridge, because they shouldn't have fallen off the bridge, because they were at least 2 inches above it in the air. These were not ground vehicles. They were low-flying vehicles. They shouldn't have fallen off the fucking bridge.
Yeah, I can see that.
When it collapsed. It was just so bad. Just so bad. That's it.
All right. Good. We weren't too harsh on the episode then. So let's see what we rate in the final episode of the day. Remember, we had 2 4.5s and 2 4s going into this one, so let's see what happens.
Like I said before, it can only get worse from here.
Yes, but I don't want to play submarines anymore. Boy, I feel as if I swallowed half the swamp. Thanks for saving me, man. Anytime, pal. Well, I'm afraid this Wind Raider's flying days are over. And the radio's dead. We can't send for help. This swamp gives me the willies.
All right, it's time for awards and rankings for the last time for episode 101. I'll go first. I do have hardware to give out since I didn't last episode, and that would be a power sword to Cringer. I liked Cringer in this episode. He did well. That was He-Man's only ally, his only help in this episode was coming from Cringer. So power sword to Cringer.
Yeah, same for me. Power sword to Cringer, but keeping in tradition with this series, a big old giant havoc staff to that fucking kid. That kid is just horrible.
Remember, folks, TFG1Mike does not like kids.
Shut up.
Rating-wise, I was at 4.5 for Time Wheel and at 4.5 for Search for Past. I will drop down a little bit for this episode. I did like that He-Man was on his own, basically with just Cringer. I did like that there was a kid that liked Skeletor. But it wasn't the same quality of episode that we just got in the previous two, so I'll go from a 4.5 down to a 3.5. 3.5 Battle Cats out of 5. How many Orcos, sir?
2.
2. A little bit more harsh than I.
The only saving graces out of this episode were Cringer and Skeletor. That's the only reason why this episode gets even 2 points. If they didn't have the lines and the scenes that they had, this episode would be a friggin' 0.
All right, Mr. Harshy Pants.
So we're going to take a quick break. You're going to hear some PSAs and some other stuff. We'll be back to close the show after this.
I hope you enjoyed today's adventure story. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we did have a real time wheel? We could turn it back to the Stone Age and meet some real cave people. Or into the future where we could see some of the wondrous things yet to come. Well, we don't have a magic time wheel. Not yet anyway. But we do have some things just about as good. They're called books. Reading books can be your time wheel to just about any time or place you choose. Why don't you give them a try? You'll be glad you did.
It's Showtime Synergy, the latest review podcast from the Geekcast Radio Network, is coming. So join TFG1Mike, Nicole Hailstorm, and myself, Lady Rec, as we will be reviewing all 65 episodes of Gem and the Holograms in a 25-episode-long podcast. You can find Showtime Synergy on iTunes and geekcastradio.com. We are the truly outrageous podcast that you want to be listening to.
Well, you know what I like best in today's story? Well, there were 3 things. The first was when the evil enchanters found out you can't do bad things without being punished for them.
The second thing was when King Randor found his father. But what I liked best of all was Adam and his grandfather getting together. You know, grandfathers and grandmothers are very special people, and they give their grandchildren a very special kind of love. So if you're lucky enough to have a grandmother or a grandfather, or maybe even both, well, you're really specially lucky.
Grab your helmets, because it's time to assemble Mask. Mask Mayhem is here with your hosts TFG1Mike, OptimusSolo, and brand new host Toon Master Tim. This podcast, covering all 75 episodes of Mask, will feature in-depth analysis of every episode, talking the toys, and more. Mask Mayhem will run 30 podcast episodes. You can find us on iTunes and www.geekcastradio.com. So get your spectrums ready, as podcasting is the ultimate weapon.
You're not the first to be fooled.
But I'm proud that you now see the truth.
Now I know why we can never let Skeletor win.
You did well saving not only me, but your own people. Well, that just about wraps it all up. Cringer, let's go home.
Oh, my favorite word. Next to food, of course.
I shudder to think that I almost betrayed you, He-Man, in favor of Skeletor.
Well, but you made the right decision. That's what counts.
The thought of all those riches was awfully tempting. On second thought, I'd rather have your friendship, He-Man, Cringer. In fact, knowing you has made me the richest boy in the world.
And we're much richer for knowing you. Until later.
All right, we are back. Any thoughts so far with season 2? I mean, we kind of improved this episode of the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, that's the second half of season 2 this is the first episode covering the second half of season 2, and we're off to a somewhat of a decent start. So far, our second half, I'm rating it 4.16, and you're rating it 3.33. So we're both pretty positive. Like we said, we had 4 ratings amongst the two of us that were 4 or above. Yeah. So it's a good start to the second half. We got a little history, a little background, Eternian backstory, I guess. So, I mean, I can't complain too much of how the second half is starting.
Absolutely. I mean, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
That's sure. That's for sure.
What would you like to see going forward?
Like I said, I don't know. I don't think we're going to get it. But I would love to see somewhat of a little bit more backstory on either He-Man himself or any evil warriors. And like we've been saying all along, I'd love to see some more characters show up. I mean, we're running out of time, I guess, but it would be cool to see a few more of the evil warriors and masters that we haven't seen show up, unless they were just strictly toys. And don't spoil it for me if you already know, because I'm trying to watch this and see for myself. But there was a lot more toys that we haven't seen, and I know some of them never show up.
It's not really a spoiler, but I mean...
I just don't want anyone to be like, oh, you're going to see this person, or, well, you're not going to see this person. Let me just figure that out on my own.
All right.
So that's what I'd like to see. A few more characters, some backstory on the Evil Warriors, and some backstory on He-Man.
It's going to be interesting to see what masters they use to replace the ones that they're no longer using, like Buzz-Off and Stratos and stuff like that. And so it's going to be interesting to see who shows up. I don't think we really get anything in the way of He-Man's origin, as you already said, but I do know, as I said before, the problem with Power is one of the core Adam He-Man centric episodes of the series. It's probably one of my favorite episodes of the entire series, so I can't wait till we get to that. I'm not to the point yet where I want this series to be over, but I'm kind of getting there. It's not... I know I've rated it low here in Season 2, and I'm sure I rated Season 1 a lot lower, but it's wearing on me at this point. And I think it might be like when we're producing these, because we're producing them like November of 2014 kind of, and it's like, by the time I get to November, it's like, I'm on vacation, damn it. Because I've worked the last 9-10 months on the site and on all the other podcasts I do and everything else, and yeah, but overall, I'm still excited. There are a lot of episodes coming up that I'm excited to see again, so we'll see what happens. Thank you for listening to the Tales of Eternia. If you'd like to get in contact with us, leave feedback for the show, there are several ways to do so. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on all of our other episode posts. You can also look at the lower left-hand corner. There's a button. Press it, join, and see what happens. Send email to feedback@geekcastradio.com. Leave the show's feedback in iTunes. We still only have 4 iTunes reviews. Come on, people. I know there are silent listeners out there. Please give us iTunes reviews. Follow us on Twitter. @GeekCastRadio is the network Twitter. Mine is TFG1Mike. What is your Twitter?
OptimusSolo.
Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Geekcast or Radio Network. Call the voicemail line. Tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. 502-526-5821. We hope you enjoyed the tales today, and don't forget to join us in our next adventure when we will continue Season 2 discussing episodes 102, 103, and 104, those being The Greatest Show on Eternia. Oh no, not another circus episode. God damn it, didn't we already do this in Season 1? Not So Blind, and The Secret of Grayskull. For now, I am TFG1Mike with...
One and only OptimusSolo.
And the power of Grayskull. You all have the power.
A female He-Man! Oh, this is the worst day of my life!
We've told the tales of Eternia, and now we head to a different dimension to explore the myths of Etheria. Join OptimusSolo and TFG1Mike as they continue their Mo2 journey by exploring She-Ra, Princess of Power. 35 podcast episodes covering the entire run of She-Ra, the Christmas special, and more. You can find Myths of Etheria on iTunes and www.geekcastradio.com. For the honor of Grayskull, we all have the power.